So let's now talk about the CHF. CHF, you know that it is of two types. It can be acute, either it can be chronic, right? So acute CHF or chronic CHF. Let's talk about the treatment of that. So let's look at the table over here. So these are the drugs which we are using for the CHF patients, for the acute and chronic one. Mainly above two categories we are using for the acute CHF patients, and other categories basically we are using for the chronic CHF patients. Understood? So this is for the acute CHF and other one is the for the chronic CHF patients. Now what we need to understand is that we are using what drugs? Inotropic drugs. For example, digoxin, very important, very important in this class. Digoxin we are using dobutamine, dopamine, ambrinon, milrinone. Okay, these are the phosphodiesterase basically which we are using, phosphodiesterase inhibitors, basically ambrinon, milrinone for example, or inodilators. Okay, so these are the phosphodiesterase inhibitors. So these are what? These are your phosphodiesterase inhibitors. Fine. Now digoxin I want to talk about. Chronic CHF will talk about them later, but in the acute one I want to talk about over here is digoxin as a very important drug. So what we need to know about the digoxin, first of all, let's talk about the mechanism of action. Just a quick revision over here. As far as mechanism of action is concerned, it is inhibiting what channel, guys? It is inhibiting your sodium potassium pump. First of all, you know that, inhibiting your sodium potassium pump. Due to that, what will happen? Automatically there will be the inhibition of sodium calcium exchanger pump also. Sodium calcium exchanger pump also, that will also inhibit, and due to that what will happen? Okay, that will also inhibit. Due to that, calcium will start accumulating in the endoplasmic reticulum, and calcium will start accumulating, and then finally what it will lead to? It will lead to more and more amount of contractility in the cell, right? Okay, so there are some of the factors which can actually cause the drug interaction with that, and which can actually cause the have impact on the digoxin basically. For example, if some kind of patient is having hypokalemia, let's say, okay, hypokalemia, or some kind of patient is having hypomagnesemia, or some kind of patient is having hypercalcemia, then it is having the impact on the digoxin. In these cases, it will lead to increased digoxin toxicity. This will lead to increased digoxin toxicity. You know that question has been asked about this one. So hypokalemia or hyperkalemia, how it will impact on the digoxin? So because it is having the same site for the binding, so if more potassium will be there, digoxin will not be able to bind. If less potassium is available, then more and more digoxin will bind. So that's how digoxin toxicity might happen due to hypokalemia, right? Then about the digoxin, what we need to understand is about its side effects. Very important. So let's talk about the side effects of the digoxin as well. Okay, that has already been asked. So it can actually cause the renal failure, so that's why contraindicated in the renal failure patient. So it is very important for the renal failure. We should know before using this drug, renal failure should not be there. We should check the creatinine level of the patient. Okay, other than that, digoxin first initially we were using, but digoxin nowadays we are not using. It is contraindicated because it was causing the liver failure. It has already been actually contraindicated, right? So we are not using nowadays. Now adverse effect of digoxin, very important, it can cause a gynecomastia. So some of the drugs are there which can cause a gynecomastia. Among them, one is the digoxin also. So digoxin, isoniazid, spironolactone, cimetidine, ketoconazole, estrogen. You can remember them with the help of DISCO. These kind of drugs are causing what? Gynecomastia. Sometimes they can ask you this question as well. This has already been asked. Okay, so digoxin is one of the drug which is causing the gynecomastia. Then what you need to remember, it is causing a very common arrhythmia in the patient. So very you need to use it very intelligently. So it is causing the arrhythmia also, and most common type of arrhythmia which it is causing. So most common type of arrhythmia which it is causing, that it is your ventricular bigeminy. Okay, what is that? Ventricular bigeminy. So it is causing this ventricular bigeminy as a arrhythmia, right? So that is the thing. Now other than that, what we need to understand is how, if the digoxin toxicity happens once in the patient, then what you need to actually do to this patient. For example, ventricular arrhythmia occurs due to use of the digitalis toxicity, then you can give the lignocaine. Okay, then coming to the chronic CHF patient. Now chronic CHF patient can be treated with the help of several kind of classification. For example, ACE inhibitors or ARBs are there, spironolactone, eplerenone, aldosterone antagonist. vasodilators, beta blockers. So all these kind of drugs are there. First of all, let me talk about the vasodilators specifically. Vasodilators, as you can see, hydralazine is your venodilator, nitrate is your arteriodilator, and nitroprusside is your arteriodilator plus venodilator. First thing, okay, venodilator is reducing the preload of arteriodilator is reducing the afterload, and it is reducing both nitroprusside, arteriol plus veno, it is reducing both preload and afterload. Understood? Okay, then for reducing, basic thing for the chronic CHF is that we need to reduce the left ventricular hypertrophy, because it is causing the left ventricular hypertrophy. Why is it so? Because aldosterone is actually accumulating and then it is causing the left ventricular hypertrophy. So we need to understand that we need to stop this. So you are very well aware of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and in the kidney we are having which particular receptors? Beta 1 receptor, if you guys remember. If somehow we can inhibit the beta 1 receptor, we can actually reduce the left ventricular hypertrophy, and that's how we can reduce the chronic heart failure patient, CHF patient. So in the chronic CHF now, in the chronic CHF, what I am saying is we need to reduce somehow. If we can able to reduce the left ventricular hypertrophy, we can save the life of our patient. So for the left ventricular hypertrophy, decreasing left ventricular hypertrophy, we are using these amount of drugs which we are telling right now, okay, for the chronic CHF patient. Okay, now beta blockers, how they're working? They will be inhibiting your JG cells, they will be inhibiting a beta 1 receptor on your JG cells, and that's how aldosterone will not be accumulating. That's how it is not causing the left ventricular hypertrophy. So what was accumulating over there? Aldosterone, due to levels of aldosterone. Then what else we can use? We can use the ACE inhibitors also, because we know that angiotensin 1 is converting into angiotensin 2 with the help of which receptor? ACE. So we can use the prils over there. Angiotensin 2, okay, it is binding to what receptor? Angiotensin 1 receptor further, okay, and then it is causing the release of aldosterone. So we can reduce that also. So by using the sartans over there. Directly aldosterone antagonist can also be used. For example, spironolactone can be used to reduce the aldosterone production over there. Okay, so that's how we can use these kind of drugs in the chronic CHF patients. Okay, I hope you are clear about that. Fine. So that was about the chronic CHF.